Hello everybody, Dren608 here. This is part 2 in my short series on Vietnam and setting up the Battle for Vietnam, which is the full campaign from 65 to 75. This is part 2. This is going to be the NLF setup. I toyed with the idea of going back and resetting the South Vietnamese. I didn't find out till I was doing the vlog for interphase that I missed a rule, which will become apparent when I get to the interphase. I will talk about that a little bit more. What I'm setting up here is an old way of thinking. In the original rules, you could do something that you can't do anymore. If you like what you see, hit the thumbs up button. You really like see, go ahead and subscribe. Hit the notify bell. Be notified to upload videos and our scheduled streams. We're going to just go ahead and get started here. Maybe if things would start. There we go. So, basically you have 90 supply points up to 143 NLF draft. You're going to get free 4 political sections anywhere on the map. And then this is the starting first North Vietnamese division that you have to set up. That you'll set up either in North Vietnam or in Laos. So I set the trail supply to 9 and sea supply to 1. That's going to be for the first summer interphase. I tend to not send very much down sea supply. Usually sea supply is there just sort of to give me a little bit of extra for like replacement points and things, and to keep the USA player honest. Plus I also wanted to be able to show you how in the interface how the sea supply thing works. So is it right? I don't know. You know, if you're going to get into strategy discussions, that's another whole set of videos to talk about things like that. As I mentioned before, in other videos, you'll hear me mention it many times. There is a fairly active group on Board Game Geek. There's session reports from roughly 6 to 8 people on a fairly regular basis that play the game, and you'll see them given written session reports. I'm seriously considering whether I should get an opponent that's willing to go through this for the long haul and have us do a video series on the replay. If you would like to see that, please leave me comments. Let me know that that's something you would really be interested in. I'll see if I can find myself a opponent who's not too much of an expert to play against, so that we can both make mistakes along the way, and you can see it unfold in its full glory. Once upon a time, I did try to do such a series with just session reports, and I only got through, I think, into 67 at some point. I might have made it all the way to 67. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look at the reports. But what I essentially did is, playing solo, is I would do a bunch of NLF moves, walk away from just save the game and walk away for like 5 days. So when I came back, I wasn't really sure where everything was. And then I would do, USA and Arvin operations for a while, until I got to a point where it was like I felt like the NLF would want to do something. Then they would say, okay, you're done. And then they would do a bunch of things. And then again, I would walk away for like 5 days after I saved the game. So I couldn't remember where all the specific NLF, regiments and for the VC and things like that, and what strength battalions were where. I could just see the back sides of them. And then I would just play a few more operations with the US side, and it worked okay from a standpoint of just kind of getting a feel for how everything should unfold and whether a certain particular strategy would work and things like that. But it was very, very long. I don't know, I spent maybe a year and only got through the first 6 seasons, maybe. Maybe I got to the 7th season. I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm not really sure where I was in that report, but it was definitely, it was getting to be too much for me to remember to go back and do things and then make sure I made notes on everything that happened so that I could put up a proper session report. With this Vassal module the way it is now and the fact that I've learned how to do some of these videos, it's very much easier to do by just stepping through the log, and you see that I leave myself a lot of notes in the log. That's one of the nice things about the latest versions of the Vassal module is you're going to see all the notes I put in here. So you can note, as you're going, what the heck you were thinking about and what you were trying to do. So that was me setting the supply run for next turn, or next interphase, the first interphase. And then what I did is I just basically told myself I'm going to do 45 battalions. I'm just going to put out 45 battalions plus the 4 political sections. So there's going to be 49 units on the board. Next up, I went with 45 battalions plus the 4 political sections. Set them up in clusters of 3 or 4. So you're going to see me going around here. Most often are towards the coastal regions. Those are the hardest to get units into, which is true. So I tried to get them further out because putting things in the coastal regions without a supply, a neutral supply bucket left over, is kind of hard to do. You have to use sea supply or you have to pay double trail supply. So here you see me, I'm just starting to drop things. Is this a good setup? Again, this is not a strategy discussion. This is a setup. So I'm just trying to drop things down. And you'll see that I do put them in clusters of like 3, and usually in mountains or other rough terrain. That one was a group of 4. I think I put a group of 3 there. Dropped a political section there, political section there. And then I also set up in the swamps down in the in 4th Corps, in the 4th Corps region. You kind of want to set up in swamp regions because that gives you the best. If you look at the terrain, there's my chart. Let's go pull up the terrain chart. Swamps, the marshes, give you a +3. Mountains give you a +3. Forested hills give you a +3. On the reaction die roll, this is important. The foot cost there. You want to be in 3s as much as possible because you're going to roll a die plus this. So you could get up to 9 movement points to do your alert movement with. And that's why I'm picking sort of the places where I'm going. There's 2 hexes you always try and take, which are those. Because you get a +9 there and everything around you is like only 1 movement point to move into. So you can usually get away from those 2 swamp things, and it tends to try and draw the allies towards you. Forested hills are also +3s. I'm setting up there to try and go after that capital. What I was doing is I was kind of looking where the allies have like fairly strong population control and or put a couple more political sections out. So that says it's 45 battalions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 7, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45. So I got 45 battalions out. Pretty much in places where I'm going to try and mess with the population control of South Vietnam. That's pretty much all you really can do there. Okay. Probably not, but they will serve our purpose for demonstration. I think that a lot of people would set up some of these. Where are they? The ones I have sitting up in some of these places, like here, you can actually get there from the border area. So like these three might be better served to being over here someplace. Things like that. This is a matter of, I guess I look at it as it's a matter of taste on how you're going to deal with it. I set up fairly heavy in Southern I Corps and Second Corps, Northern Second Corps, because there's a lot of area there, and it's very hard for the initial deployment unless you're going to drop 50 commitment points, which I would welcome as the NLF. If you're going to drop 50 commitment points as the U.S. on the first turn, there's no good place for you to set up. They're going to come and find you. They're going to have lots of units and things. But here, basically, I'm kind of, this is a mistake here. He should not be on that road. So that's an oopsie on my part. I didn't realize that was a road. He should actually be like over here on this hill over here, forested hills. So that was oops, but that's the way we have to go. Okay, so I get rid of those blank counters that have stuff written on them. And I go ahead and I just put the first division here. Now, in the old game, in the original Vietnam game, in that first interphase of summer 1965, you could withdraw units. And so what I would do is I would withdraw the 3 NVA regiments here to get 3 more commitment points, or morale, basically. It would lower your commitment by 3. So you would have spent, you'll spent the 10 here to do this, but then you would get 3 back. And then with what you would get from the US, you would end up with at least 8 in that first interface, so that you could have a fair, you'd kind of be getting ahead of the curve. The same thing is where you see all these individual armored cavalry of the individual divisions. The idea was, this was a mistake on my part too, these should be independents, they should not be divisional ones. But the idea was a lot of these divisions have their armored cavalry in a city to keep the in a replacement city where you can put in your reinforcements. And then based on what happens with the leaders, you would go ahead and say, oh, I'll just, because like if you look at the leader display, the whole point of this quote strategy was that you look at this and you go, okay, First Division has a terrible corps commander, so maybe I'd pull the First Division out and I'd put, since I'm likely going to always be ineffective because of this first corps commander, I might like swap the 1st and the 23rd divisions. So I would remove their guys, get these leaders off, and then put the 1st division somewhere else and see if I could get a decent leader back. Things like that. I mean, it was gamesmanship. It was gaming the system. But there's a little paragraph at the end of the drawing 3 regiments, moving the headquarters as first up onto the trail. Now, as I read 17, it would have withdrawn. NVA headquarters not be able to return, so I'll leave it on the trail until I bring back the division. It is in the rules where it's talking about withdrawing. There's like a limits on withdrawing paragraph. I think that's 16.2 there. And I don't have the rules out handy. Oh yeah, here they are. Just to make sure that I'm reading this right. Oh, reinforcement things. It's actually 16.2.4, not 16.7. See, that talks about withdrawals for restrictions. Okay, so 16.17.2 is restrictions on withdrawal. It's right at the end of the whole withdrawal thing. And it says, points required in groups have to be withdrawn only in groups indicated on the chart. Except for headquarters, there is no limit to the number of times the unit may be withdrawn or returned to play. Once an headquarters has been withdrawn, it can never be reintroduced. It does not specify a U.S. headquarters or a South Vietnamese headquarters or a VC headquarters. So if you withdraw a headquarters unit, a little thing that says HQ on it, you ain't never ever bringing it back. Okay, and then it goes on to say you cannot take a unit as a reinforcement on the same turn that you withdraw it. So like if you withdraw things, you put them out here in the ocean until you're done doing your placements, and then you put them all back in the force pool. So as I read that, anytime you withdraw a headquarters, no matter what side you're on, if you actually, quote, withdraw it, you can't bring it back. So except for final withdrawal, you'll probably never see the U.S. withdraw their headquarters. Again, this is Jason Crawley has gone into great detail of how gamey this can be, because you can do things like withdraw all, but you leave one battalion of each brigade, like here. If you wanted to withdraw, you'd keep the 2 4s and the brigade headquarters and the division headquarters when you bring it in, and you would end up with all these guys being able to help their headquarters in, and you could bring in, several battalions from a different division and mitigate the cost of bringing in new divisions, and then withdraw them and bring back these guys because they're better fighters or whatever. And you can play games like that and do an army shuffle to where you end up with things like not the best divisions. The U.S. has some divisions that aren't that great, but they can be there with one battalion in their headquarters, and it's just extra support to fly around, to move around on the board for an op. So that's twice a season you get to use that headquarters because you have their guy on the board. Yeah, that's very gamey. That's not the way military formations tend to work, but it's something that you can do in this game, and there is no prohibition on it. Jason Crawley has come up with sort of a rule that says you can't, if you're going to bring in a division from the Arvin, you have to bring in the headquarters. If you're going to bring in, if you're going to withdraw, like if you withdraw more than half of a battalion, the headquarters has to go too, and all things like that. He had a bunch of sort of house rules to try and make it, quote, more realistic, unquote. This game is somewhat of an abstraction of what went on in Vietnam. It does give you the feel for what went on in Vietnam, at least as far as I'm concerned, from all the sources that I've read on the conflict and the causes and the reasons why we didn't succeed and all that kind of stuff. So he has a lot of various house rules. The ones that I liked the most were the ones that had to do with limiting combat, so that you wouldn't end up with silly things like a battalion here being able to bleed out an NVA division of like 10 replacement points before it decided to finally die itself. Things like that. That's just silliness. But there hasn't been a lot of games played with those, so I don't know how unbalancing it might be. In that is one of the strategies, is that as the NLF, one of your strategies is you build a couple hundred replacement points and you just attack. You don't care about losses, just to rack up attacks in an offensive. He would limit you to 3 rounds of combat. Okay. So 3 die rolls on any given operation. And part of the strategy is the NLF is to, when you get to the point where you can do offensives, is very oftentimes you'll have 50, 60 battalions of VC on the board, and maybe, maybe a division to make a push on something important. But all those battalions will just go out and attack 2-3 times, and you'll have like 100 replacement points. You take some replacement point losses, and you just keep attacking. Little places like this, where if they retreat, you get a capital, and if they don't, you just bleed them for replacement points, and you're just racking up attacks so that you get up to 60, 70, 80 attacks in a season, and that really whacks on the U.S. morale. So that's sort of the concept behind the whole offensive thing for the NLF, to try and get the U.S. to withdraw based on ridiculous attacks like that. So like I said, again, this good. I read from experts that this is the play. This early as you can't support the VC in a full NVA division immediately, so I will withdraw the regiments and get more commitment for the next interface. That's me making notes there. I don't know that I did much else. Nope. Yeah, so next time we're going to try to go through the 65 interface. This is, only a 20-minute video here, so I'm not going to go too much more into this. I still am of 2 minds here about, I think I talked about this before. I don't know if these NVA replacements and VC replacements are actually supposed to be public knowledge on this track. Okay? I keep trying to delete this thing and it keeps coming back, so hopefully I would get this deleted at some point where it will stay off the track, because I have 2 of them. As I stated before, I had to adjust. US replacements are supposed to be 3, not 4, and there's a few other things that, like the Riverine points are not sitting on here at 0, which they should have been. The SVN supply marker doesn't start in this scenario, does not start on the board like at 0 like it should, and things like that. So pay attention to the general track. Make sure that all the counters are there where they belong. I think we are ready to go into the interface. So I will go into the interface in the next video. This will be the summer of 1965 interface, so you will not have any pacification in that one. After I do the interface, which I believe is going to be in 2 parts because it just took a while and I was having trouble getting myself to log in as the referee. Yeah, we'll go through the interface and the builds, and that's where I made the realization that I couldn't withdraw these guys and do my shenanigans with the leaders. So I ended up having to basically build out like a full regiment in Hue, and basically anywhere where I had just a divisional armored cavalry unit, I dropped a regiment to guard that particular reinforcement port, because those are things that you definitely do not want to lose to the VC. You may lose some capitals, but losing the reinforcement ports limits where you can put things down. If you can take some of the ports out here in like Second Corps, there's 2 or 3 in here. If you can grab the reinforcement ports here, that means the U.S. has to come in like at Saigon or somewhere in Fourth Corps or in, right around Hue or whatever in Da Nang. And that means they have to spend a season almost to get into proper positions, at least a full turn, to half a season to get to somewhere where they can actually threaten VC units at that point. So that's why you got to kind of make sure you garrison those ports things. You do want to try and hang on to the capitals if at all possible. I don't think it is possible. If the VC really want to take a capital, if they have enough placement points, they're going to take it, and you're going to have to deal with captured capitals, reducing your morale as the South Vietnamese in the U.S. Until you can get to basically a 4. I try to get to a 4 division, maybe a 5th division. My divisions of choice are the rest of the 3rd Marine. I bring in the 1st Marine, 1st Air Cav, the 101st Airborne because they're air mobile units, and then the 23rd, the AmeriCal division, because it has a nice big nasty dedicated artillery unit that if you place it right, it can support like 4 or 5 operations. It basically makes the VC just run away from like 2 hexes around it. It's got this big huge umbrella that they don't want to be anywhere near it because it's got like 12 or some ridiculous support. I don't remember what it is. Oh, not that one. What's the... that's the leader pool. So if you go into the U.S. and it's the 23rd, I believe. The 23rd division. Yeah, so let's oh, I'm the NLF, so I can't see that. But yeah, it's maybe it's in the inventory. Can you see it in the inventory? Yeah, the 23rd. The AmeriCal division. If you scroll down here, they have this big nasty artillery, which is 2 intervening hexes, so up to 3 hexes away from it. They're going to hit you with 12 firepower. So you drop that unit like right here, and for 3 hexes around it, you're not going to see any VC. Because they don't want to be anywhere near that kind of firepower. Because with 10 maneuver battalions, these guys can, declare themselves in an operation 10 times. That thing's going to fire 10 times. So wherever it's at, you tend to not see the VC. They just, no, I don't want to be there. They might have to in order to contest a province that they really want to contest, but, the AmeriCal sitting up here like in 1st Corps pretty much can secure Dao Then or Quang Nam, just kind of this whole area up here. The 23rd, the AmeriCal with some support can pretty much hold on to this. A lot of people put it down here in 2nd Corps, I guess, for the same reasons. But we'll get into that another time. All right. So, if you'd like to see, hit the thumbs up button. You really like to see, go ahead and subscribe, hit the notify bell, be notified to upload videos under scheduled streams. Like I said, this is part 2 of the series, and we will go into the interphase next time. Until we meet again, stay safe, and bye-bye.